Good morning, student. Inavote, Dumela, Gapi. This is Educational Management 2. My name is Daniel Bangula, and my details there for you to contact me when you have something that is not clear. I'll be your tutor for this module, and I'll take you through the presentation of this module, which is aimed at preparing you for the coming examinations of 2021. This course is tailored as follows. You need to obtain 50% in your assignments to be permitted or admitted to examinations. And also, for you to be declared passed or to have passed the examination, you need to pass the examination. There are instances when you find yourself your average is 50, but your written sub-minimum not achieved or obtained. That means you did not pass the examination. Hence, the importance of you to know that you do not only rely on the CA marks, even if it's 100%, you still need to pass the examination for you to be declared as to have passed your examination. You need to know your study guide very well to make sure it's easier for your study to be enjoyable and able to pass the module. There's nothing really unusual in this module. It's just management, and management is what most of you are doing. Some of you are already teachers, some of you are already having houses, some of you are already heading the families. That's all management that we are talking in this module. And all the principles and components and elements that we are going to talk about management is most of the things that you know already. It's only that here it's put in a systematic way. So, therefore, I'm urging you to prepare your examination while you have ample time. Do not just do the last minute things. And always make sure that I'm available only during weekdays. I don't work on weekends. Weekend is also my resting time. So only Monday to Friday. Furthermore, familiarize yourself with the most important topics that are likely to come in examination, so that where things seem tough to you, you can ask the tutor to assist you, so that I can make simplifications on those things that you think you seem to have troublesome. We are starting with the content that is deemed to be of importance for this coming examinations, the 3 examinations we have. The starting point will be in Unit 1. In Unit 1, I want you to focus on the characteristics of bureaucratic organizations according to Max Weber. This is where you all make mistakes. I always emphasize that when you see a question in examination, look at the keywords, because management is a generic thing. You might find similar topics in the same unit, but according to certain theorists. So for this characteristic of bureaucratic organization is according to Max Weber. That's what I want you to look at. Like the well-defined hierarchy, which means all positions with the bureaucratic are structured in a way that permit the higher positions to supervise and control the lower positions. This clear chain of command facilitates control and order throughout the organization. A well-defined hierarchy means there must be a leadership positions in the organization, from the top manager, middle manager, and last managers, who are there to control what is going on in the organization and how things must be done. And there must also be division of labor and specializations. This is what you know already. Of course, there must be people who are employed, must be specialized or specialists in that area. The responsibility in an organization are specialized so that each employee has the necessary expertise to do a particular job. I also want you to look at Henry Fayol 14 principles. There are other principles in this unit 1, but for these examinations, I want you to only focus on Henry Fayol. I emphasize that. So these 14 principles of, according to Fayol, he talked about the division of work. Division of work and specialization produce more or better work with the same effort, and there are more. Authority and responsibilities. Authority is the right to give orders and the power to exact obedience. A manager is an official authority because of her position, as well as a personal authority based on individual personality, intelligence, and experience. Authority creates responsibility. In other words, for a manager within an organization, you have a power or authority over others to make sure that things are done accordingly. That's what it means by this authority and responsibility principle of Fayol. Leadership styles in relation to their concern for people and production. This topic, there is a similar topic, but of different caliber. This one, leadership styles, is in relation to their concern for people and production. And you must underline that word, because this question was in some previous examination, people were mistaking it with other leadership styles. The other leadership style of which you have democratic and what, I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about this with concern of people and production, and you must underline that point. This is not leadership styles as you know in general. This is leadership style in relation to their people's concern and their production, which include improvised styles located at the lower level hand corner of the grid point, and is also characterized by lower concern for both people and production. And the primary objective of this is for managers to stay out of trouble, to make sure that things are done and they are not being criticized. And the country club style, that's another leadership styles in relation to their concern for people in the production. Located in the upper left hand corner of the grid point, which is distinguished by high concern of people and lower concern for production. Its primary objective for this country club style is to create a secure and comfortable atmosphere where managers trust that subordinates will respond positively. A country club of style is sort of to say the manager has trust in their subordinate, and they think everything that will be given to the subordinate to do, they will do it with open-heartedly. Then we look at the next topic, which is benefit of scientific management. The benefit of scientific management include replacement of traditional rule of thumb by scientific techniques, and also proper selection and training of workers. In other words, when we talk of benefit of scientific management, we are talking about a specialized skill whereby when you are selecting your employees, you are selecting them according to their expertise. And you are also using the scientifically techniques which can help you to do the job. That's a simple explanation I can give you. And I want you to continue with the next topic, which is why managers or leaders fail in various organizations. This topic, there is also another topic which is more or less the same as this one. But here, this one is talking about why leaders or managers fail in various organizations. Number one, you talk about managers who are avoiding responsibility when things go wrong and they try to blame others. That causes failure. A good manager stand up and start or taking responsibility for his area. And having a manager who will stand up and take responsibility encourages employees who work for him or her to do the same. Because those managers who are always making a blame shift, they will always have a failure because they are not really watchful. They are always waiting for things to go wrong. Then they say, oh, it's you. Failing to develop and maintain high level of morale among employees. What does this mean? If you are frustrated at work, there is no way you will do your work. So, but if your morale is high, you are motivated, you are happy, you always have positive enthusiasm and you are able to do your work accordingly. Then I want you to look at the concept of leadership. This one, you just need to know this concept by describing it in detail or defining it in detail. And this is a process by which an executive can direct, guide, influence the behavior and work of others toward accomplishment of specific goals in a given situation. Furthermore, is the ability of a manager to induce the subordinate to work with confidence and zeal. So, in other words, the concept of leadership is about how you influence others to do the work and how you influence others to be positive about what they are doing, and at the end of the day, they are able to do work with high productivity, and also you are able to influence the behavior of others. If they were demoralized, you influence them in such a way that they will feel motivated to do what they were doing. Somebody may be saying, I cannot do this. Then you come in, you support, and give that moral support which can raise the person's morale. Then the next topic is the factors on which competence depends. The factors on which competence depend include the extent of the leadership skill, the leader's basic nature and values, etc. So you must take note of those. Component of school excellence, which must be addressed to prepare students adequately for their future. The component of school excellence is to embrace a common vision and goals. Schools that are very good, that are doing well, they always embrace a common vision. They have a common vision and goals. And the school is an organization like others, and they always seek to improve and must have a common vision shared by all. So the school must have especially for those who are teaching already, you have the school target every year. Those are the goals that we are talking here. Everyone must be committed to shared goal to measure success, and all staff must have the same perception as to why is it very important to achieve such a goal within your organization. Then Another one is informed decision through data system. Data system here we are talking about, say for example the school did not perform well the previous year. So now, for you now to make a decision, they say that, okay, colleagues, we must pull up our socks because according to the data at hand, last year our school only performed or achieved 50%. Now, the whole school reform is a continuous process guided by a well-developed data structure based on multiple measures of student learning. You look at what happened in the past, then you use that data to improve the present situation. We are moving to Unit 2. Here I want you to focus on what it means to be an assertive communicator. Assertive communicator involves you giving an opinion or say how you feel, and you can also ask what you want or need. You can also have a disagreement with somebody, but you disagree with respect without insulting. That's assertive communication. Being assertive means you are more sort of behaving in a respectful manner and avoiding hurting others. Benefit of being assertive communicators, you must also look at why is assertive communication or communicators more important. Behaving assertive can help you be trustworthy. People tend to respect you if you respect them. That's what it means in simple terms. Gain self-confidence and self-esteem. The more you respect others and they return that respect, you feel confident because you did not cause any harm. And you also air your views with respect, and you have self-confidence in whatever you are doing. You understand and recognize your feelings. Sometimes you are disappointed, but you don't outburst. You always reserve your anger to yourself and say, this is not right. That's what it means, but that's the benefit of being an assertive communicator. Then I want you to look at the 6 steps you can use to solve problems. The 6 steps you can use to solve problems involve identifying the problem, defining the problem, forming the strategies on how to solve that problem, and the list continues. Strategies also or characteristics for critical thinking. Critical thinking is one of the 21st century components which is needed by all the leaders, which include questioning assumptions. Critical thinkers are inquisitive and look to find the what and the why behind every proposition. Adopt a different perspective. Take advantage of the genders and culture represented in today's diverse management landscape. Different experience can provide valuable insight. See potential. Critical thinkers should also have creative bent that allows them to see opportunities where others see obstacles. In other words, critical thinkers do not look at the situation as a problem. They look at it as an opportunity where they need to put extra effort in order to improve the situation. That's all about the critical thinking strategies or characteristics. Furthermore, principles that are used in dispute resolution. When people have dispute, it's very, very important in the first place to accept. The acceptance is the first principle. It's important to accept one another differences as well as process and the outcome. Every person has his or her own opinion. You need to accept that. That's what it means by this acceptance. Acceptance requires an open mind. People do not always behave the way we want them to behave because they are different from us. They are unique in their own characters. Things do not always go the way we want them to go, and they do not always end the way we want them to end. Therefore, we must be able to accept that. That's what it means, if you want to put it in your own words. Accessibility. People who are involved in a dispute should have access to all the support available to them, including information about the process and their options. Not only should procedures and protocol be clear and available, the people themselves should be open and approachable and accessible. In other words, if you're having a dispute, you must be available to answer some questions as to why did this happen? Why are you thinking this decision is the right one? So then you must be accessible to give clarity. That's what it means by that. So then you can put it in your own way in that manner. We are moving to consequences of internal conflict that are created by passive behavior. The consequences of internal conflict that are created by passive behavior include you become very stressful, then the resentment and the sitting anger. You are always heavy. Internal conflict means you don't have happiness within yourself, and that creates you to have more stressful mindset and looking for anger. And we are looking at the next topic, which is constraints that prevent principal from organizing resources to support the curriculum. The constraints, these are problems that prevent principal from organizing resources to support teaching and learning to take place in school. This problem or these constraints include shortage of or lack of storage facility at school, lack of skills and expertise needed to identify and use resources properly. Maybe you just employ unqualified teachers. Now, there is no way those unqualified, even if you give them the latest textbook, they will not use those resources properly because they are not qualified. Inadequate source of supply of the required resources. Another problem is that sometimes there are no resources at all. There are no library facilities, there are no textbook, classrooms are not enough. Those are the things that can prevent principal, those are the constraints that prevent principal from organizing resources to support teaching and learning to take place in school or support curriculum. Because support curriculum is just, in simple terms, it's just supporting teaching and learning to take place in school. How can dispute be resolved informally? Remember, we have different ways of resolving dispute, but here we are talking about how do we resolve dispute informally. Number one, you must determine who is involved. You must determine who's involved. Then it's important to identify who is mostly directly involved in the dispute and most likely to be able to influence the outcome. In some cases, for example, a person might be directly involved but have little or no influence or control over that situation. So you have to determine that. To determine means find out. Yes, it may be necessary to gather information about the right roles and responsibilities of people who are involved, including your own. If you are resolving a dispute informally, you have to ponder around who is to do what, who is involved in this situation, who can solve this one, who can be conducted. The next thing is conduct. The person and arrange a meeting. You must conduct the person and arrange the meeting. If it appears that the dispute cannot be resolved with a simple phone call, the first thing to do is to arrange a meeting with the person who is also involved in that dispute. You and the other person or people involved should agree on time and place that works for you, so that you can sit and resolve such problem. Then we are looking at the factor which can lead people to act assertively. The factor here that help you to act or to behave assertively involve when you are confident, self-confident, believing their opinion counts, their ideas and feelings matter, and they have the right to express themselves. That makes you those are the factors that make us to behave assertively. Being resilient, able to deal with criticism, rejection, and setback. People can criticize you, and you can still say, okay, it's fine. All right. Then we look at unhealthy and healthy ways of managing and resolving conflict. Unhealthy ways of resolving conflict, of managing and resolving conflict include inability to recognize and respond to things that matter to other people. You are unable to recognize or to respond to things that other people value. Healthy way is the capacity to recognize and respond to things that matter to other people. So this is just, so when you know the healthy ways of resolving conflict, then you will just turn that into negative ways. Healthy way is a positive ways of resolving conflict. Unhealthy way is a negative ways of resolving conflict. Simple as such. And you can even use your own words in this case. We move to Unit 3. Unit 3, we are looking at drawbacks which have caused failure in the successful implementation of the cluster system in Namibia. A drawback, we are talking about the troublesome or the problems or disadvantages that caused, or let me not say, maybe let me say the setback or the negative things that caused the cluster implementation system not to be a success in Namibia. Number one, cluster do not function well where there is a lack of commitment from any of the management levels. You know, this cluster system was caused and there was no remuneration for those who were involved. You have cluster setup principle, but that portfolio, you are not paid for that. Now in such, some people were not really putting effort. That's why there was lack of commitment at the level of management. You are regarded as a cluster setup principle, but you are not paid for that portfolio. You are only paid for you being a principal. That's what caused the people not to have more commitment. This cluster system implementation. The additional work demanded by new education approach is seen as a burden by some people. You being a cluster center principal is on top of you being a principal of a certain school. That's the additional workload that is put on your shoulder. That's why people feel this is too much. As yet, there are no financial incentive for cluster center principal. This is like what I have seen before, that there were no remuneration for that. So that's why people could not really take it serious. Then we look at the things to consider when combining a year planner for your school. Things to consider here, we are okay. At many occasions, people fail to understand what we mean by a year planner. A year planner means a school calendar. In a simple term, a year planner is just a school calendar for your school. That means in your school calendar or in your year planner, there must be school holidays, the in-service days when you are going to be given a certain training, or hosting a workshop for certain teachers to be given an in-service training, and parent night, maybe you have a gathering that you want to have with your parents. All those things, staff meetings, there must be all those activities that are taking place throughout the year. When I'm writing the test, when is the exam coming, etc., etc. Interventions used by school to correct learners' behavior during disciplinary processes. This is just a disciplinary procedure in simple terms when you are talking about intervention used by school to correct learners' behaving during the disciplinary process. These are just disciplinary procedure in simple terms. Like you call in the learner, you give the verbal warning or reprimand to express disapproval of what the learner has done. Then if the learner continues to do the same thing, you give a written warning. Then if it is still persisting, then you remove the learner from the class to exclusion from the classroom. Then you are enforcing a good behavior. You want the learner to change. So you just follow the disciplinary procedure. Reasons for building momentum in learners' recognitions. Reasons for building momentum in learners' recognition include to reinforce exact behavior, to indicate exact behavior, to acknowledge a special accomplishment. That's why we recognize the learners when we are giving those recognition to the learners. Top 5 values that are considered the most important to be taught. Top 5 values that are considered the most important to be taught, either to the learners or to anybody. Personal responsibility. That's the very first value. You as an individual, you need to take personal responsibility in whatever you are doing. Strong work ethic. You must have ethical value toward your work. You have to be honest. Those are values that are considered the most important to be taught to anybody. The function of cluster center principle. The functions of cluster center principle involve provide general leadership and supervision of all activities in the cluster, visit schools in the cluster to offer support and solutions, promote formation of subject groups to improve the teaching and learning or to improve the result. Then we have 5 basic categories of methodologies useful for developing character education. The 5 basic strategies of methodologies useful for developing character education: teaching value through pronouncements, rules, and warnings. Many times adults simply tell your young people what to believe. This may occur very openly, and it may be much more subtle. In schools, for example, it's common to be given children a set of classroom rules. In other words, when you are developing a character education, you are developing education that has specific aim to help you to reach certain goals. So there must be rules. Teaching value through examples and models. Very, very important. Children like heroes and they want to be like their heroes. So if you come to classroom drunk, do you think the learners under your supervision will say alcohol is not good? If you yourself are coming to class drunk, or you come to class and you do not dress properly. So because you become the heroes of those children. So those heroes include people they know, people they see in television and movies, and people they read about or hear about, or when used in school. The modeling approach involves getting children to look at figures in stories and history and the kind of people that they should aspire to be. Sometimes when you are teaching, there are certain leaders who are renowned leaders whom you want to be a role model for your class. You bring those stories, or certain movie stars or artists that is very renowned artist in the country. You can bring those ones and you say, don't you want to be like who, so that your life will be shining. Then we are moving to Unit 4, difference between stress and burnout. The stress and burnout, we look at stress and burnout. stress is emotions are overreactive, while burnout emotions are blunted. Product agents and hyperactives, while burnout produce helpless and hopelessness. That's it. If you look at in your module, there are more to that, the difference between those two. Different levels of Maslow hierarchy of needs that need to be met in order to satisfy people's needs. Maslow said people can do well if their needs are met. And there are different needs. We have physiological need, the need for food, the need to drink, whether drink water or maybe alcohol. The need to have a decent shelter, the need to relieve from pain. That's why in your workplace you have sick leaves, compassionate leaves. If you have a death in your family, you must be relieved to go and grieve with others so that you relieve from that pain. Safety and security, that's another hierarchy of needs. Once the physical needs of the moment are satisfied, men concern him or herself with protection from physical dangers, with economic security, preference for their familiar, and desire for an orderly, predictable. The core task for principal in supporting new teachers. That's the next topic. So for Maslow, you have self-actualization. There are a lot, but you read them in your book. I have only given you some few examples. The core task for principal in supporting new teachers. The principal task is to clearly articulate expectations for teachers. That's the duties of the principal, the tasks that the principal is supposed to perform to help the new teachers. Streamline government and regional environment. Maintain a disciplined school environment so that the new teacher will adapt and get used to the school norms. We are in Unit 5. How learners' assessment results should be analyzed. What do we mean here? Because some people are always call me to ask me, what do you mean by this? What we mean here is how do we measure our, or how do we analyze how our learners performed? We use national examination, then we say this percentage has qualified to go to university. You are analyzing the learner's performance. We also use interim assessment, benchmark assessment, or early grade reading. In pre-grade, for you, before the learner go to the next or to exit point to go to the next grade, you must make sure that the learners know how to read and write. They know the alphabet, they know how to read and write. Assessment, administered at multiple points throughout the school here to provide feedback or learners. You give classwork, you give class test, you give end of the term examination. All those you are trying to assess your learners' result to see are they doing well or not. Those are the things that we use to assess the learners' result. Benefit of progress monitoring. Benefit of progress monitoring involves accelerated learning because students are receiving more appropriate instruction, more informed instructional decision, documentation of student progress for accountability purposes, etc., etc. Meaning of the term classroom monitoring. What do we mean by classroom monitoring? Classroom monitoring means we are questioning students during classroom discussion to check their understanding of the material being taught. Classroom monitoring means you are checking what's going on in the classroom. When you teach as a teacher, you don't just stand in front. You walk around, you circulate around the classroom and engage learners. one-on-one. You will find one even sleeping during the class. Then you can ask that learner, you create a conversation, one-on-one conversation. Why are you sleeping? No, we only ate once. We only used to eat 3 times a week. So that means that kid is starving. So you are trying to create, engaging in one-on-one conversation with the learner about their work. I have given you a class activity and you are not doing it. You are just sleeping. Why? That's what it means by classroom monitoring. Assigning or collecting and correcting homework, recording completion and marks of the learners. So when you are monitoring, you make sure that you assign tasks to the learners, you collect their work, and you record. They are marked after you marked their work. That's classroom monitoring. Then you know how many passed, how many failed. You are monitoring your classroom. Constraints that prevent teachers to provide quality education in Namibia. Constraints involve professional unqualified teachers. That's the problem. That we have overcrowded classrooms, school lacking basic education facilities such as textbook, stationaries. Those are all problems that are associated with education to provide quality education. With teachers that hinder teachers to provide quality education in Namibia. We are in Unit 6. Powers and functions of the school board is stipulated in the Education Act of 16 of 2001. That's to develop mission and goals and objective of the school, to advise the school management on the extramural curriculum of the school, to advise the regional director of education on educational need and the curriculum of the school. Then we look at the serious offenses that can be committed by learners in school. These are serious disrespect and assault of teachers, or beating or fighting, or fellow learners or teachers or staff, disrespect toward teachers, disruptive in class. All those are serious offenses that are committed by learners in schools. Thank you for the time you took to listen to me. I hope I made a simplest presentation, and that should not discourage you from contacting me. And I said contacting me strictly weekdays, no weekends. Thank you.